Hello everyone and welcome back to Game Week 2 of the 25-26 Slater and Gordon Premiership, live from the Lee Westwood Sports Centre, where you join myself, Ryan Sipple, and WFA chairperson Dean Williams for the 2 kickoff, which will be contested between close geographical rivals Middlesbrough PFC and Teesside PFC. Let's go through the squads quickly before we bring you the action live. Middlesbrough coming off the back of a very frustrating 1-0 defeat to Greenbank, are comprised of Ethan Galloway, James Found, Kath Goldsborough, Carl Forster, Umar Hanif, Thomas Pettigrew, their coach Carolyn Goldsborough. And for Teesside, the reigning Premiership champions, having lifted the 24-25 then Optegra Premiership, they're comprised of a full squad, unlike that of Game Week 1, where they have Ed Common, Greg Baxter, Dylan Pearson, Mitch Tinkler, Tyler Reeve and Alistair Hay. Not just that, Owen Swift and Paul Pearson return to the touchline. They started Game Week 2 in fine fashion by passing Newcastle United Foundation by 3-0. Dean, how are you?
Hello Ryan, hello everybody else. Nice to be back on comms.
It's good to have you, and this should be a good game. I think on paper you very much expect Teesside still to be the strong favourite, but Middlesbrough have proved a very difficult team for many teams to break down, so they'll want to stay resolute and as defensively sound as possible. The longer this goes on without Teesside breaking the deadlock, the more chance they have. I alluded to that frustrating 0-0 draw, it's that 1-0 defeat to Greenbank, sorry, and it was frustrating. I think it was the Marcus Harrison lock-up for the majority of the game. Anyone that watched it will know exactly what I'm referring to. I think 20 minutes, 20-30 minutes, it was very much just Marcus Harrison preventing Middlesbrough from advancing up the court. I think Teesside pose a very different threat. They'll look to expand the court, produce those big, powerful triangles that have proved so successful in the last 12 months. And that win earlier today against Newcastle United Foundation, not just impressive in the fact that it started Game Week 2 in fine fashion. They were the first goals that Newcastle conceded all season. 5 clean sheets in Game Week 1 for them. So it looks as if Teesside put down that early statement of intent, having faltered slightly in the second day of Game Week 1.
Always tough defending your title, Ryan, as we both know. Just a quick note on Middlesbrough. I've been impressed. You can see that improvement, can't you, in terms of their dogged nature, the coaching that goes into that team. They're very difficult to beat, I think.
They're a fantastic team with some fantastic players, and I think the ultimate goal will be securing Premiership status for 26-27 and then seeing what else they can achieve. I think they defied the odds, staying up last season, and already they've got a win under their belts, unlike the likes of GBG Knights, Muscle Warriors and Sevenoaks, are all chasing their first points this season. Teams as they line up: James Found, Kath Goldsborough, Umar Hanif and Carl Forster for Middlesbrough, Alistair Hay, Tyler Reeve, Ed Common and Mitch Tinkler for Teesside. Tyler Reeve was probably the standout against Newcastle earlier today. Such an influential player, scoring and assisting.
Fresh from getting more England caps the other week.
Very much so. Him and Ed Common were at the 2025 FA Para Football Awards as he fires it over to Mitch Tinkler, who splits open James Found and Umar Hanif. And just over a minute in, they've broken the deadlock that I said could be so crucial to any Middlesbrough success. And once again, it's that familiar combination between two of the country's brightest players. Teesside lead Middlesbrough by 1-0.
Some finish that. Bit of a trademark from Mitch Tinkler, isn't it, that? Knows how to finish.
He thrives off the world-class service that Tyler Reeve continually puts in his path. And I would love to know how many of Mitch Tinkler's National League goals have come via Tyler Reeve set pieces. I'm sure someone could do the maths if they studied the tapes, but I would confidently say 50-60% have come through the creativity of the Teesside number 11. And we did say when calling Teesside's earlier win against Newcastle how important this season is for Tyler Reeve to really put down that statement, put down that intent to break not just into Teesside's squad in terms of securing that Premiership title, but Adam McAvoy's England team as well. He's been on the fringe of 2 England squads in Sydney at the World Cup and the Euros in Italy, but had to settle for less minutes than he probably would have liked, but that speaks volumes as to the overall quality of the national setup. But if he continues to play like this, he'll pose some very interesting questions of the England head coach. Middlesbrough will just want to settle now. 1 goal, when you consider the momentum of both sides, is fairly daunting to overcome. 2 would be a metaphorical mountain. As Ed Common fires down the line to Mitch Tinkler, pushes it beautifully into the 180 of Tyler Reeve, but just couldn't quite get the timing. But lovely crossfield ball from Mitch Tinkler.
It's quick, it's incisive. It's joy to watch, isn't it?
I think that goal puts Mitch Tinkler on double digits for the season. So he's the league's current top goal scorer with 10. Closely followed by Dan McClellan on 9. A chance to get his brace now. Constantly looking for that gap, but what impresses me so much is the selflessness of his actions sometimes. He won't force it towards goal if there is a more beneficial option for the team. So on that occasion, exchanging and returning the favour to Ed Common. And that's something that's so impressive about Teesside. It's just how efficient they are.
Yeah.
Brought back. Umar Hanif prepares to take into James Found, quickly closed by Ed Common. It needed that flick. Falls kindly to Ed Common, just looking for the gaps as he dribbles it into the box. There's options on the bench for both teams. Middlesbrough, Ethan Galloway and Thomas Pettigrew, the 2 Scots. And for Teesside, Dylan Pearson and Greg Baxter. It's a very much needed interception that momentarily forces the ball up the court and away from James Found in the Middlesbrough defence. I think a pin has just come loose from the back wheels of Umar Hanif. Well spotted by Paul Yates.
I think they've been looking for that for a couple of minutes. Found.
Greenbank have started their game on court A in impressive fashion. They lead Muscle Warriors by 2-0. That's also live on the WFA's YouTube. Alternatively, you can follow all of the results on WFA Scoreline. Kath Goldsworth has to be considerate of her placement. Just vacates the space in enough time. Very erratic. Off the back of Umar Hanif's chair. Common happy to let that roll through. Seven and a half minutes plays. Middlesbrough 0, Teesside 1. As Ed Common feints to engage at the first time. The second, that's very almost disappointing for the high standards that Teesside set. I'm not quite sure what the intention was. Tyler Reid was never in a position, nor had the angle to capitalise. One thing we did know in that 3-0 victory over Newcastle is we always felt that Teesside had another level. They could go into another gear. That speaks to that efficiency once again, not overexerting themselves, maintaining and ensuring their energy is consistent across the entirety of the weekend, which wasn't the case in game week 1. They faltered as the weekend went on, so something they're obviously clearly looking to address.
As a statement win from scoreline perspective, but if you're telling me that actually you felt they had another gear, that's quite intimidating for other teams.
It almost looked effortless for them, and when we think about the fact that Newcastle were at joint top going into that one, 13 points from their opening 5 games, hadn't conceded a goal, and Teesside just seemed to deal with it with relative ease. It was incredibly impressive.
Staying in the game here for Middlesbrough is so important, isn't it? Steady the ship a little bit. They are obviously on the back foot to some extent, but now starting to get a bit of an ascendancy. But staying in this game incredibly important as long as they possibly can. And then you never know from that perspective. They might nick something. But it's been about 9 minutes since they conceded. They've steadied it a little bit.
Apologies for any technical difficulties. Hopefully the score line is all up to date now. James Found. Carl Force with a very rare touch. It's been very isolated up the court.
Just going back to your reference on the England squad, where we've just got a brief break in play, Ryan. Obviously, we had the Nations Cup now. All focus now goes towards, from an England perspective, to the World Cup in Buenos Aires, having qualified for that. I assume this is just an obvious thing to say, massive season for some of these players. When you look at someone like Mitch Tinkler, who's obviously in the system, what potential opportunity do you think? Is it too soon?
I would say, honestly speaking, that it is probably too soon. We've seen Adam McAvoy kind of select that core 8 that he took to Italy, and it would take a lot of effort from the likes of Mitch Tinklers, the Ollie Crawshaws and others to break into that squad. But they will set that challenge to anyone in the England development or even the National Emergent Talent Programme squad. There is a huge season ahead, and if Teesside do go to the latter stages of the league and secure back-to-back titles, potentially win the cup, he will ask some very interesting questions of the England setup, and that's something that Adam McAvoy and Craig Peter will want to reassure the whole programme as a whole, to say their squad isn't confirmed at all. Not even the 8 that we've come to expect or you would predict would be taken if the competition was in the next week or so. So there's a huge season ahead with so much football to be played, and even with Adam's Italy squad, there were some surprise inclusions with the likes of Ethan Fisher, who worked away last season to earn their spot there.
Yeah.
I think there'll be the typical home nations, which is delivered around March, April time. That will give him an idea of the setup. There'll also be the development home nation, where the likes of Mitch Tinklers and others will have an opportunity to impress. Worth noting that Ethan Fisher was in the development home nations in 2025 and forced his way into that conversation. So yeah, very exciting year ahead. But we saw that in the lead up to Sydney, the level just skyrocketed.
Plenty to play for. Some
heavy contact as the ball trapped between Kath Goldsborough and Tyler Reeve. Tyler Reeve, of course, formerly of Middlesbrough.
How long ago was that, Ryan, roughly?
He would have joined Teesside in 2020, maybe?
Just after COVID?
Just after COVID, I believe. I think he was president in Teesside's first National League campaign, which may have been the 1920 season, 2021 at very latest. But he's one that's gone through every level of the England talent programme. Started out at the RETP, NETP, England development, and now is one of the top performers in the England senior squad. So if you want a reference point, if you want an inspiration.
Good stories, aren't they?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, I like stories like that. Something for, if you're a younger player in particular, to get hold of and know that that's possible, but a lot of graft.
Yeah, I think when we're assessing the whole programme from top to bottom, the 4 levels, I think only Tyler and Dylan Kelsall have gone to every level, because I think Dan McClellan bypassed the England development squad as to his impressive development.
I think you're right with your reference to Dylan. He put a post out during the week, I think it was, which was an amazing post talking about his story and different levels in terms of just ramping up that education of Powerchair football.
Mitch Tinkler, I was talking about the selfless nature of his play. Sometimes you want him to be selfish, and that there was an opportunity to strike towards goal, which probably would have yielded far more success than that crossfield ball to Edcom. And either way, they do come away with the corner ball as we tick over into 15 minutes.
I'm going to jinx this now, as we both called it commentator's curse, but Middlesbrough done well to steady this.
Yeah, they're such a solid defensive side. Not many have great success in breaking them down. As it goes into the box, James Found and Umar Hanif have established a fantastic partnership, and you've talked about curse of the commentator. That's really unfortunate, the way and the manner in which they conceded there, because they just didn't set at the second opportunity, and it was Tyler Reeve took all the power off that ball to guide it over the line. And 16 minutes in, Teesside have their second.
I shall stop talking, shall I? I think anyone representing Middlesbrough will want me to stop talking at this point.
If I had £1 for every time curse of the commentator occurred for me, I would be a very rich man.
But you do it a lot more than me, right?
Yeah. Tyler Reeve, as was the case against Newcastle, has both scored and created. He is having a brilliant game week 2. At the conclusion of tomorrow's action, as always, we will be conducting the Swizzles Game Week Awards, where you can vote on your team of the weekend, fantasy team of the weekend, unsung hero of the weekend, and standout player of the weekend, something many of these Teesside players will want to grasp a hold of. Umar Hanif. Trapped in this bottom corner, Tyler Reeve pressuring. Play continues. It's flicked out for a dangerous set piece. Mitch Tinkler. Back to Tyler Reeve. Not quite sure what the intention was, but so much power on that ball. And an indirect free kick, which if scored, could see them go into the break. 3 goals to the good. Maybe a boom boom.
Just about to say that. It's got that written all over, isn't it?
Keep an eye on Mitch Tinkler as well. Just ricochets over to Mitch Tinkler, but not in the way they would have wanted. The second chance goes wide of the upright.
And with reference to the boom boom, do you want to, for anyone that's listening to this, watching this, for the first time perhaps, Ryan, explain the boom boom. You'll do it a lot better than me.
Essentially, it is the utilisation of an indirect free kick. So, as is the name, a free kick cannot be struck towards goal or be registered as a goal should it go over. So, teams have come up with inventive ways to generate the power via 2 players. So, one player will rotate, fire it as hard as they can into the rotation of another player, and you would be surprised as to the sheer power generated when you can get those 2 working in symphony. It's a lot easier said than done, and in my kind of Powerchair Football commentary career, I've probably watched maybe 3 or 4 that have been utilised or executed perfectly. So they are a sight to behold when they come off, but incredibly hard because it requires 2 players working in tandem, and their rotations to perfectly complement one another, to not just fire the ball between each other, but then that secondary effort to go towards goal.
And that's exactly how I'd have said it. Words to that effect. Beautifully articulated.
But something I'm sure we'll be able to tally up is the prevalence of set pieces that have been scored across the season so far. It's increased steadily across the years, and we're seeing teams rely heavily on set pieces to break deadlocks. Or
we saw it in the Nations Cup, didn't we?
We certainly did. Obviously 80% of their goals, I think, were via set pieces, and here's another one, indirect once again, but crucial interception from James Found.
Good piece of defending, that.
As we are now a minute over the regulation 20. I suspect this will be the last real action of the first half. And that is the first half over. Middlesbrough 0, Teesside 2. you would say, a fairly dominant, one-sided fixture thus far. What can Middlesbrough do in the second to shift the tide? Join myself, Ryan Sipple, and Dean Williams for that shortly. Hello everyone and welcome back to the second half of Middlesbrough versus Teesside in game week 2 of the 25-26 Slater and Gordon Premiership. And you are joining myself, Ryan Sipple, alongside Dean Williams for the action. Give me your assessment of that first 20 minutes, Dean.
I think dominance is absolutely the word I would use from a Teesside perspective. I thought they were very dogged, Middlesbrough, after conceding so early and held it for long periods of that game, but then they've got so much quality, haven't they, Teesside? In a moment, it's undone. I think it's difficult for Middlesbrough from this perspective, but they'll be very, very keen, won't they, to can they do something? Can they get a goal? Can they get the next goal in this game to make Teesside think a little bit differently?
Yeah, and that is answered straight away.
Shall I stop talking?
Mitch Tinkler kind of drew the action out to the left-hand side, which created a huge channel that was struck beautifully by Tyler Reeve. He has been the standout in game week 2. Of that, I have no question. He's been absolutely brilliant and adds yet another goal to his impressive catalogue. And Teesside's third in the fixture. Yep, really do run out of superlatives for him. A few switch-ups at the break for both. Ethan Galloway on in place of Carl Forster. Greg Baxter on in place of Ed Common.
They have so many options, don't they? Experience across the whole squad.
Kath Goldthrup. Umar Hanif just struggling to find the gap in that blue wall. It's just guided towards Greg Baxter, but doesn't quite have the power, so Kath Goldthrup can come back to defend. Baxter into Mitch Tinkler. Baxter into the 180, looking for the gap and finds it. A brilliant goal. He got one in that victory over Newcastle United Foundation, and he's going to point to his Miles Miller armband. Very nice tribute. It was obviously a teammate with Miles at Sevenoaks for many years. And there's confirmation of Teesside's fourth. If the first half was categorised as dominant, Teesside have found a level above that in the opening 3 in the second.
I didn't see the game against Newcastle, as I referenced earlier, Ryan, but they, I mean, you know, they just look like they're purring, don't they? Absolutely purring.
It's now a plus 20 goal difference for Teesside. Incredibly impressive. And looking at how tight it is at the top of the standings, it would not surprise me come the conclusion of game week 5, when we're crowning our 25-26 champion, if it's separated by goal difference.
Incredibly tight up the top, isn't it?
Incredibly tight at the top, incredibly tight at the bottom,
yeah,
for that matter, when you consider Muscle Warriors, Sevenoaks, GBG Knights and Middlesbrough, just 3 points separate those 4 sides. Mitch Tinkler looking to generate the angle. Flicked back to Tyler Reeve, switches the play, needed that interception after Kath Goldsborough to momentarily relieve pressure.
Needs all of Kath's experience here to guide some of the younger players at Middlesbrough to not absolutely crumble and still stay with something they can learn from the game, and that's an important quality, even though you're in a position which nobody wants to be in, and still a chunk of time left to go. But important, isn't it?
Most definitely. Another sight at goal for Greg Baxter, who missed game week 1, as did Dylan Pearson. So they're just getting up to the pace of the new season.
Just seeing a little bit of Mitch Tinkler's versatility here as well, in terms of just different positions on the pitch.
Incredibly versatile, and that's something that will be considered when you're having those conversations at England level. Have a position you call your own, but if you're proficient in the central areas or the defensive areas, it will help you massively. Certainly when you consider the likes of Ed Common, who play his club and country football in kind of varied positions. Same with Tyler Reeve. It is important, very important.
But also that if you play in positions like that, multiple positions, your awareness of what the individual needs from you is heightened, isn't it? Or certainly should be.
I think we've seen it with the newer generation of England players. Obviously the likes of Chris Gordon, John Balding, Marcus Harrison, they have kind of a way of playing, a position in which they call their own. The younger players around that have been through the whole system from RETP up to England senior level, that there is that emphasis on versatility, but not being at the detriment of proficiency in any one certain position, because everyone has their favourites of where they like to operate.
Yeah.
Greg Baxter's the perfect example. He can play anywhere on the court and always give a 7 out of 10 performance.
Yep.
Predominantly plays as a goalkeeper, has played in the centre, and now we're seeing him perform and score in those attacking wide areas.
It's funny, isn't it? I'm going back, I'm going to sound like a dinosaur here, Ryan, but in my days of playing football, it used to be called utility players, and quite often the utility player was unlucky. They'd make a squad but not really appear that much, and now we've got, in the case of what we're referencing right now, we've got people playing in multi-positions, so it just gives that wonderful agility to the team, able to understand dimensions across the court, the pitch, and how they need to receive the ball, and what's the optimum pass that people can receive, and all that now seems to be just an absolutely no-brainer in terms of getting people to understand the delicacies of all these different positions.
Put a lot of emphasis on Teesside, naturally with the scoreline at 4-0, but Umar Hanif is one of the most versatile players in the division.
Yeah.
Currently on the National Emergent Talent Programme, impressed for many years on the Regional Emergent Talent Programme, earned his spot to get that kind of promotion up the ladder, and he's another I would feel comfortable putting in any of the 4 positions on the court, and him doing a very solid job. You have to consider the context here of where Teesside are, the level they're competing at, so I almost disregard the scoreline when referencing and assessing the individual performers of Middlesbrough. James Found is another brilliant young player.
Completely agree. Umar's one of those players that seems to go up levels every time I see him.
been so nice seeing his development. I think he was in one of the first cohorts of the RETP all the way back in 2019.
Is that right?
Yep. And to see him develop as not just a player but a person as well, that maturity, that confidence is fantastic. Substitute sees Kath Goldsborough come off. Thomas Pettigrew, the player, coming on. Cut out by James Found. We've ticked over into 31 minutes. It will almost certainly be 2 consecutive wins in game week 2 for the reigning champions. As Dylan Pearson comes on. It's not a bad bench for Teesside currently with Ed Common and Mitch Tinkler.
Remind our listeners, who was your tip for the Slater and Gordon Premiership, right?
Teesside.
It's easy to say that now,
I've done so many podcasts. No, I think...
Well, it must have been up there, obviously.
I think it was Teesside. It's between them and Aspire. So I had, I think, Teesside top, Aspire second, Leeds third.
And not quite through 2 game weeks in. Reason to change that or not?
No, I'd probably... I think Aspire have been the most impressive across our 12 Premiership teams.
Yeah.
Obviously, they bypassed Teesside in game week 1, but it's a marathon, not a sprint. They dropped points to West Brom in game week 1 as well. So, no, I don't necessarily have any skin in the game when it comes to wanting a team to be crowned champions, as long as the football continues to increase and we get more eyes on the sport.
In a statement you've just made, that tells everyone about the competitiveness of the Slater and Gordon Premiership this season. So dropped points against West Brom when you talk about Aspire. I mean, that tells you how competitive this league is.
Yeah, but I assess conversations I've had with players and coaches and representatives of both West Brom and Aspire. West Brom very much in a rebuild phase. In the last 3, 4, 5, 10 years even, it's been almost a 2-horse race exclusively between West Brom and Aspire. So it is crazy to think you drop points against the likes of Aspire, but they're fighting for very different things and they won't shy away from that, I don't believe. Aspire incredibly confident, and that confidence has sometimes cost them in the past, so you don't want to underestimate anyone. There's Tyler Reeve looking for his hat-trick, fires it into the back of James Found. David D is still back in Teesside to go on, secure back-to-back Premiership titles. He's also asked us to consider Greenbank, and whilst I don't disagree, Greenbank are going to be a very competitive side. They're going to give a lot of the top teams an incredibly tough game. Having watched them earlier today against Middlesbrough, they weren't trying to play, they weren't trying to excite, they were just managing. Maybe that's a shrewd game plan and something that will help them maintain that momentum and that energy across the entirety of the season, but at the moment I don't necessarily attach titles of contenders to Greenbank, but they certainly have the players to be in that conversation.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? So are they 3-0 up on the upper court, I think, at this stage?
Yeah,
I think it's 3-0. But when you look at it, first season in the Premiership last season, mid-table, Ryan, is that right? Roughly mid-table?
Yeah.
Maybe a fraction below.
I think 8th they finished.
Yeah. So, but then you look at where they are now. So again, the learning that's happened, I do love to see that as a completely neutral administrator of the game. I absolutely love the fact that you can see that progress, and they've gone for it a bit differently this year. And maybe the bit you said is absolutely true. You know, that's the way for them to get themselves to a high level, to progress in terms of standard in the Premiership, get used to that. So maybe that's what we're seeing.
Some fascinating games tomorrow involving Greenbank. They play Aspire and Teesside, so wow. That's the acid test.
Yeah.
That is when we assess whether Greenbank are going to be in that title race, because if they come out of those two fixtures with, I don't know, 4, 6 points, 3 points even, we have to, without question, consider them one of the title contenders.
And at the moment, due respect, it's them, Aspire and West Brom have all yet to lose a game in this Premiership season.
Just while we're waiting for Ed Common to adorn the goalkeeper jersey, I'll show you the top 6 stand-ins in the division. You can see Aspire top on 16, Greenbank joint with 16 points as well, and then that pack below them, Teesside on 15, West Brom, Newcastle on 13 apiece, and Leeds trailing but with a game in hand. So fascinating. 4 points between the top 6 teams.
we do love it, don't we? We do love
much
it.
More.
No, not at all.
Umar Hanif fires it down the line, and now we talk about versatility. Alistair Hayes going to feature out wide. We saw him do that in game week 1 and score. They tend to experiment when they've got a comfortable goal advantage. His first attacking involvement, just missing connection with that 180.
For balance purposes, Ryan, if we look at the other end of the table, Middlesbrough, at the moment, again, they have 3 teams. You referenced this earlier on that are sitting below them. GBG Knights have a point, but Sevenoaks and Muscle Warriors at the moment don't have any points at all. Middlesbrough have got themselves on 3 points.
I think across the 22 league game season, I would very much suspect Middlesbrough will have more than enough to escape automatic relegation at very least. I think the quality they've got, the young talent they've got, their defensive shape is probably the best out of the 4 teams you've just mentioned.
Yeah.
So, but they have to get point accumulation. They have got that win, but that doesn't mean they need to rest on their laurels. They need to go and look to get further in game week 2 and beyond.
I think, do they play Sevenoaks did I see that? Sevenoaks this weekend? That's a big game.
Yeah, when we consider their fixtures coming up, they've got Muscle Warriors today, which again is a potential 6-point affair at the bottom.
Yeah.
Tomorrow they start against Sevenoaks before a tough game against Newcastle. So real potential for them to take 6 points.
Yeah.
Oh, certainly, if you was to reference the kind of the bookie odds, so to speak.
I do like how you break these things down. You have a very simple thread that you put on this sometimes, and didn't you say, listening to you very attentively like I always do, didn't you say about a winner weekend? Pretty much statistically speaking, we've averaged it out across the last 5 or so years. You need anywhere between 13 and 16 points to escape automatic relegation, and if you break that down to a game a weekend, that's 15 points. Yeah.
So that puts you right in the sweet spot.
You should be a coach, you know that? No, that kind of makes sense, because I think, you know, if you're playing against teams and you're on the wrong end of results like this, then ultimately that's something you've got to focus on. And those 2 games, I think, probably the best chance of Middlesbrough there.
As well as saying a game a weekend, a win a weekend could put you in a very good position come season's end.
Yeah.
I've also said you have to pick your battles. Middlesbrough would never have been expected to come into this fixture and secure anything, really, realistically speaking. But those games against Middlesbrough, they will be considered favourites, and they have to take their chances. They have to take their moments, because the season comes down to that. The reason they're in this division in 25-26 is because they took their chances if and when they came in 24-25, even with some surprise results against the likes of Villa Rockets and others.
It was towards the end of the season, wasn't it? Because in the end they looked quite comfortable, didn't they, in terms of staying in the league. No, they are massive games, aren't they? There's two that you've referenced. They are huge.
Played the regulation 20, now into any additional time. Tyler Reeve out on the left-hand wing, just flicks it into Umar Hanif, follows up the effort. Good adjustment by Ethan Galloway, but that will conclude the fixture. Middlesbrough 0, Teesside 4, 2 goals in the first, 2 goals in the second. Sees them really impressed. Mitch Tinkler opened in the first minute. Tyler Reeve after 16 seconds into the second half. Tyler Reeve got his brace before Greg Baxter put the cherry on top. To show you the live league standings very quickly, you can see what that 3 points does to the overall outcome. They go within a point of the league leaders Aspire, but they do have that plus 20 goal difference, so much more favourable than those around them. Double that of Greenbank and West Brom, who sit either side of them. Middlesbrough still with 3 points from their 7 games. They have played a game more than those below them, but having games against the bottom 2 tomorrow and this afternoon, they'll want to ensure that buffer is increased. Thank you to all that have tuned in. Next up on Court B, we have Leeds PFC versus West Bromwich Albion Thrussels.